This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.
The final score from the coldest place on earth: Wrexham 3, Boston United 0, and Wrexham go on into the second round of the FA Trophy. An impressive win all over really after half an hour, 29 minutes in, and Wrexham were 3 up. And from then on they were comfortable, and despite changing 5 players, they looked exceptionally well drilled as well, and that really was the difference between the teams. Lots of fringe players given an opportunity: Nicky Davidix, Chris Holroyd, Mike Fondop, all starting. Christian Dibble behind the sticks for the first time since we lost to Harrogate in the FA Trophy last season. And Wrexham got off to the absolute perfect start when those fringe players combined. Fondop flicking it on, Davidix on the right-hand side of the box, feeding it in nicely, and the Holroyd sliding in to put Wrexham ahead. A terrific start. And from there on, really, well, I don't want to say it was plain sailing, but it was very controlled and very professional. Wrexham playing with the 4-2-3-1, which gave them solidity when they didn't have the ball. And Boston really found it exceptionally difficult to pass their way out of their own half. In fact, really the pattern of the match, and I'm saying this carefully because I don't want to sound patronising towards Boston, the pattern of the match though really was that Wrexham put the pressure on them, which made the difference of a division count. Boston, when they got the ball down and tried to pass it around, and they did admirably try to pass it around, really found it's exceptionally difficult to get through a Wrexham midfield which was well drilled, which knew when to press and when not to press. Really cut down the space intelligently, cut down the passing channels, and forced Boston players basically to ultimately run out of technique as they moved the ball around. Ultimately, one of them would try and play an ambitious pass, put under pressure, which they couldn't execute. And that really was the difference. Wrexham's strength off the ball and organisation was really impressive. They were also extremely clinical when they went forward, and the next decent attack they had in the 90th minute saw them go 2-0 up. This time it was Davidix and Rutherford combining nicely, feeding it in towards the edge of the area where Fondop did ever so well on the edge of the day, spinning. He was taken off balance, yet somehow managed to control a toe poke along the ground and into the bottom right corner. An excellent strike by Fondop, and Wrexham found themselves really in the comfort zone. Couple of minutes later, and it was nearly free. Carrington with an intelligent chip into the right side of the box. Holroyd made a good run. Keeper had to come off his line to try and get there and couldn't. Holroyd beat him to it, and from a tightish angle, I think it was a shot really, turned and hit it with power across the face of goal. It was off target, and Fondop running in front of an open goal, had no chance to get there, and the chance was gone. It was a good 20-odd minutes, nearly 25, before Boston really managed any threat, although they were monopolising possession. Like I said, Wrexham quite happy to cede possession to Boston, to be patient, to force the mistakes and then hit them on the breakaway. A short corner led to an opportunity as the ball was swept in by Max Wright in the near post. Allett getting it well, got a good flick on the ball, but it went across the face. Nobody could get a touch to it. And then a couple of minutes later, another moment of danger from a set piece because of Allett's strength in the air. A free kick swept into the box. Allett getting up and heading it powerfully towards goal. It hit a defender, ricocheted and sat in the goal mouth. Davidix just about got there to scramble it behind. The corner was swept in, and Allett, for my money, was climbing on Lawler, but no foul given. Got over him and headed it powerfully 6 yards out, just wide of the right post. But Wrexham really, despite those headed opportunities, were looking in control, and in the 29th minute, they went 3-0 up, and essentially the game was over. It came from a Boston corner, played into the box. When it was half cleared, Summerfield with an intelligent ball forwards. Davidix, the furthest player up the pitch, carried it forwards, waited and judged his pass and the timing of it to perfection to slide in Rutherford, who was constantly trying to run in beyond the strikers. He ran in behind the defence, did well to get there one-on-one with the keeper, drew the goalie and finished confidently into the bottom right corner. Rutherford's first goal since April, and Wrexham 3-0 up and coasting, and the rest of the half really had nothing much to report. Second half, well, Boston started off with maybe their best moment of the match, 2 minutes in, when Jennings was tackled by Alice by the corner flag right-hand side. It came from nothing. He whipped an immediate cross into the near post, and Nicky Walker managed to who cut in from the left flank, get there first at the near post, tries a little flick, and Dibble, who'd been unemployed until this point as well, to get down low to his right and save. And after that, Wrexham were the ones creating chances once more. Jennings, who was very progressive on our left-hand side, bursting into the box brilliantly, a tremendous run, beat two men, and then as the defenders backed off him, scooped a good cross to the far post. It was half cleared. Akil Wright running onto it just over 20 yards out, met it with terrific power, but couldn't quite keep it down, and it whistled over the bar. Then Jennings again swinging in across. Fondop trying to Akil Pike about 8 yards out, trying to rather nice back heel, and he executed it well too. Centre back under the bar, just about managed to get a foot to it and poke the ball clear before Rutherford, having profited when he was running in behind a flat and slightly too high defence, decided to return the compliment, dropped off deep and fed that sort of ball for Jennings to run onto. Again, they backed off him. Jennings, time to measure it, stood it up to the far post. Fondop attacking it, looked like he was going to score with the keeper cut out by the cross. A tremendous piece of work by Gibbons, just on as a sub, just about got there under the bar ahead of Fondop and managed to scoop the ball clear. Boston had switched to three at the back, but it hadn't made the difference. Wrexham adjusted their approach cleverly and still stopped Boston being able to pass the ball out comfortably from the back. Within a minute of that opportunity, Jennings was at it again. Tremendous 25-yard strike, really made fabulous contact on it, and the keeper was listed well to dive to his left and push it away. This is the point where the 80 Boston fans, who've just had such a long trek across country to see their team take a beating, started chanting, "Call it off." It was never going to happen, although it must be said that the Kop half of the pitch, especially the quarter of the pitch closest to the Yale stand, took in a lot of water, and there was quite a bit of surface water. Just still looking down now, you can see it, in fact, and the ball did stop rolling properly in that part of the pitch, actually, which meant Dibble a couple of times had to adjust quickly when back passes suddenly stopped in their tracks, and the ball down the corner of the pitch particularly really was starting to halt. If it had been like that an hour earlier, perhaps, or if the outcome hadn't been so clear-cut, it might have put a question in the referee's minds, but yeah, the Boston fans knew full well they were really being a little bit hopeful and calling for that. 6 minutes from the end, they had a chance for a consolation when the substitute Rollins cut in and struck a powerful shot from 20 yards, but it didn't really pick out the corner, and Dibble got down well low to his left to save. And the remaining opportunities fell to Wrexham, who by this point had brought Matty Sargent on for his debut. Rather cruelly, Jack Thorne, the other player from the youth team on the bench, didn't get a chance to make his debut. He was stripped off and stood on the side of the pitch ready to come on. The ball went out for a throw on the far side, but the substitution wasn't made for some reason. That was with 1 minute left. The fourth official showed he'd had a minute, and the referee blew his whistle when Wrexham won a corner, just when it looked like Thorne was going to come on for his debut. So poor Thorne has managed to stand on the side of a pitch waiting to come on, but hasn't done so. Wrexham made a couple of late opportunities. Summerfield did an excellent ball over the top, which Holroyd was just beaten to by the goalkeeper. Rather ironic, as Colin Henry's rightly says in commentary. If that had happened at the other side of the pitch, probably Holroyd would have made it first and been one-on-one with the keeper committed and a long way off his line, but the pitch at the university end was holding up rather better, and therefore the ball bounced through, and the keeper coming out quickly was just about able to get there first. Then the first minute added time, Fondop incredibly close to it, a second goal, picking it up on the right-hand side. An interesting tactical change Wrexham made late on. Quite experimental, and I would say not something you'd have tried if the balance of the game wasn't already established. Because they'd gone three at the back, Wrexham decided to try and stretch the centre-backs out, and basically went back to a sort of diamond, where Fondop was playing on the right up front and Holroyd on the left. Fondop much more advanced than Holroyd, and I think the idea was drag the two wide centre-backs out, leave the central centre-back exposed, and then Devidic to try maybe to come through the middle and be one-on-one with him. But it was Fondop, after we changed that formation, who actually had the one opportunity, and like I said, it was desperately close to a goal. Picked up on the right, cut inside, carried it to the edge of the area, smashed it with real power. We were right behind it. It was whistling just inside the post. A perfect strike and a brilliant save by Willis, who lunged at full stretch, got his fingertips to it, and just touch it around the post. Fondop unlucky not to get his second goal, and he would have deserved it, quite frankly. As ever, he did some things rather peculiarly, but he did some things ever so well too. There was nice quality to some of his play. He made the ball stick on occasions, and was a constant threat and a handful for the centre back. So a satisfactory day for him, given a start by Graham Barrow, and a very pleasing day all round for Wrexham, who go round to the second round of the FA Trophy. And, well, maybe despite what happened in Newport in midweek, there's a chance of a cup run after all. For some more analysis, have a listen to what myself, Colin Henrys and Ollie Williams had to say after the match on Calon FM.
This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.
So Wrexham strolled to victory, 3-0 up at half-time, and comfortably in control all the way through. Christian Dibble is currently sprinting the length of the pitch because he's forgotten that he's left a towel sitting in the back of the goal, and it's the weather for having an unnecessary sprint, isn't it, Colin?
Yeah, it's an unnecessary towel as well, I think, given it's been sat in the rain for the last 45 minutes.
You're not wrong there. But it was a really good performance, that I thought. The thing that hits me most really is our discipline when we didn't have the ball, if I'm honest with you. It made it exceptionally difficult for Boston to play football against us.
Yeah, it was a very professional performance, wasn't it? Certainly once Wrexham got the lead, it'd be interesting to see what sort of game it would have been had we not, but with that 2-0 lead early on, Wrexham didn't need to do anything but sit back, restrict the options to Boston. They didn't need to force the tempo. They had to make Boston ask the questions to them, and any questions they did ask, or certainly most questions that were asked of them, they dealt with it very comfortably.
Absolutely. Before we go on, I should also, before I forget, say apologies to people who are getting in touch using Ask Wrexham, because it just didn't refresh until about quarter of an hour before the end of the match. It looked like he'd all neglected us, and then suddenly they all came up in one go. I can only assume the internet got wet, and that's why it didn't work. So we're really sorry to get around to it. A few of them will hold over till Saturday, actually, the questions that will still be equally relevant, and I'll answer a few online later. But yes, it was... Okay, I say that I was impressed by the way we were when we didn't have the ball, but I was also very pleased the way we were incisive in the first half, weren't we? We made clear chances, which you haven't always lately, and we took them, and essentially we had 4 decent positions in the first half, and 3 of them led to goals.
Yeah, and all 4 were very nicely worked moves, weren't they? As you said, incisive, I think that's a very nice way to put it, because certainly the first goal and the third goal, 2, 3, 4 touches, that's all it took. Yeah. And we're not talking long balls here, we're talking nice passes out from the back for the third goal, especially in terms of making those spaces. I do think Boston maybe got their tactics wrong today. I understand they've been unchanged, but I think with hindsight they might look at that and think they should have packed the midfield a bit more, because that's what Wrexham did, and they simply had no options, whereas when Wrexham had the ball, spaces to get the ball into to deliver those 20-30 yard passes. And as you said, 4 chances, 3 goals essentially, and a very comfortable afternoon in the end.
And they couldn't find that space in Wrexham's half, and they didn't have the quality to drop those longer passes in, so they were giving the ball away due to Wrexham's pressure, and that was a key determining factor tactically in this match. Ollie, George Randall's and Ask Wrexham was saying, does Nicky Deverdix deserve a start against Aldershot after today's performance? It seems like he has the quality in the final third we've lacked sometimes this season. Well, it was a strange one from Deverdix in that he had 2 assists, did some really nice incisive moments, and yet on other occasions you felt slowed the moves down a bit. You know, he's certainly made more of a case than before this match, but whether it's enough to get him into the starting lineup's a moot point, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. Deverdix has played in that sort of role where he is going backwards for the last 2 years, so it's difficult. The only way he's going to have that natural sharpness and being able to get forward, you know, as fluid as he'd like to, is by getting game time. I've felt since the day he came to the club that he should have been much more involved than he has been. I think he gets a lot of criticism, where really we've been bringing him on with 10 minutes to go and he hasn't really been able to do too much, and it can be difficult to get into those sort of games at times. I'd like to see Deverdix given more game time. I'd like to see him when he's at full throttle, because I think he can really damage clubs. We've seen what he's done at this level whilst he's been on his mettle, and I think for me, Deverdix, he's a creative player. He's good in behind the strikers. I was disappointed today not to see him being played in that role. I would have rather Rutherford out wide and Deverdix in the middle. Then we could have seen a true reflection of what he could have done. But yeah, for me, will he start against Aldershot? Will he be on the bench against Aldershot? Well, he won't be starting, certainly. Will he get a place on the bench? Maybe. But for me, he's a player I'd like to see a lot more involved of anyway.
I think you've just made the exact point there of why we won't see him on Saturday, and that Paul Rufford played that role instead, and he's done very well there. He's become a key part of this system that Graham Barrow seems to like adopting, with Rufford in that hole. Today it was behind Mike Fondop, it'll no doubt be behind Bobby Grant and Stuart Bevan next weekend, and he's done such a good job in the last few weeks. I think it's very hard to drop him, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Rutherford's really been outstanding in the last few weeks, and not just his energy but end product as well. I mean, other people, Ollie, who have had an opportunity today, of course, are Fondop and Holroyd. They both got goals. They'll both be happy with what they've done.
Yeah, they will. I'd still rather see Fondop on the bench than Holroyd. Holroyd, you play him down the middle. I don't like him out wide. I've criticised the fact that he doesn't track back as much as I'd like to see him. He had to on Tuesday more than anything, rather than, he was naturally coming with that. I have criticised Chris Holroyd at times. Fondop, I'd like to see him there on Saturday in terms of, I wouldn't want to see him starting. I'd want to see Bevan and Grant starting next week, but I would like to see Fondop on the bench. And again, he is one of those sort of players who, it doesn't matter where he gets his goals, if he does so, it breeds confidence in him, and when he plays better, the team plays a hell of a lot better in that final third. We saw that back in August. So for me, I'd like to see Mike Fondop involved again on Saturday. I don't think we're not going to see him. I think, although Holroyd and it seems Barrow does like Holroyd, I would prefer to see him in there.
Yeah, he put a good shift in, I'd say, defensively today. To be fair to Holroyd, I would say. But having said that, I was pleased with Fondop, the ball sticking on occasions almost as much as it was sticking in the half Wrexham were defending in the second half, because the conditions deteriorated spectacularly, didn't they, Colin, in the second half? I mean, this pitch drains well now, but wow, it took a testing today, didn't it?
Yeah, I suppose you don't really realise just quite how much rain's throwing down until all of a sudden it was plugging in, and the ball seemed to get glued to that part of the pitch as well. The Boston half, there was plenty of space. The ball was zipping around quite nicely. Unfortunately, Boston kept putting it in that corner where it was plugging in. Luckily, both sides just about managed to acclimatise, and not too many embarrassments down there in the end.
And Dibble had to make a couple of little adjustments, which he did rather well to avoid too many alarms. I reckon it's man of the match time, Colin. He got a few. I was going to say he got a few contenders, but he got the look of a man who thinks he hasn't.
No, it's a funny game, wasn't it? I know the sponsors gave it to Paul Rufford, and I've been impressed with him as a whole the last few weeks. I thought, certainly first half, Akil Wright was driving into space well, but my pick, I think, would be Luke Summerfield. He's such an intelligent footballer in the middle, both with the ball and without the ball. Everything good comes through, and we saw that with the third goal. It only takes a little clearance like that, but a sensible clearance, and all of a sudden, Wrexham were 2-3 passes away from putting the ball in the net. I've been a big fan of his since he came to the club in the summer, and I think today was another. It wasn't anything spectacular by his standards, it was just another consistently good performance in the middle of the park.
I agree. I love his intelligence, and I was looking at him and his awareness before the ball comes to him of where it could go, where he needs to be, and what his body shape needs to be to pop the ball off efficiently first time if necessary. He's just such a good pro, and I just noticed as well. I mean, a few times I've seen. Okay, I've said this previously from a different perspective. Good players link well with good, intelligent players who are on the same wavelength, and I've seen him do that a number of times. I've seen in the moment Grant came in the team, the two of them were exchanging neat little passes, and I noticed as well he very deliberately did this cute little nodded head the moment Sargent came on, just to give him an early touch and a bit of space. And don't you think, Ollie, he's thinking all the time, Summerfield, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and you can see the cogs turning throughout games with Luke Summerfield. He's probably, for me, he's up there with one of your players of the season, isn't he? He makes Wrexham a much better team. The midfield is so much better from what it was last year because we've got Luke Summerfield in there. He's been really impressive. Not just a clever player, but he's got the ability. Because a lot of players, you can see they've got good ability. They know they've got it all upstairs, but sometimes not downstairs. Well, Summerfield don't. Summerfield can spray a pass. He can thread balls through. He's a clever player who has also got the ability to back it up.
Has it stopped raining? No, not quite, but it's not as bad as it was. Wouldn't that be typical? Blinking heck. Well, it's been a satisfactory day, a very satisfactory day for Wrexham. They've rotated, squad players have grabbed their opportunity, and as a result, they're through to the second round of the FA Trophy with the final score of Wrexham 3, Boston United 0. We've been Colin Hendries, Ollie Williams, and Mark Griffiths.
This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.